you're 45 years old and have the steadiest hands in the country. But today, as you hold the scalpel under the white, sterile light of a makeshift operating room, you feel your pulse betray you for the first time. You're not in a prestigious hospital, and you don't have a team of qualified nurses. You're in the basement of a fortified mansion on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by men with assault rifles who know nothing about medicine, but know everything about loyalty and blood. In front of you, lying on a stainless steel table, is the man who controls the fate of thousands, the boss. He has a bullet lodged dangerously close to his femoral artery, and his blood pressure is dropping faster than you can administer fluids. The premise of your life is as simple as it is terrifying. As long as he breathes, you breathe. You're his personal doctor, his shadow, the guardian of his health, and sometimes the confessor of his physical weaknesses. But the deal is implicit and absolute. If he dies on your table, you don't leave this basement alive. It doesn't matter that you're the best cardiovascular surgeon in the region, or that they pulled you from your bed at 3 in the morning with a bag over your head. For the men guarding the door, your medical knowledge is just a tool that must produce immediate results. If the tool fails, it gets discarded in the most violent way possible. You feel cold sweat soaking your surgical mask. The heart monitor emits a rhythmic beep that sets the pace of your own anxiety. One of the bodyguards, a young guy with a scar across his cheek, gets too close and looks over your shoulder. You notice the smell of gunpowder and stale tobacco coming from his clothes. He doesn't say anything, but the sound of his weapon's safety being clicked off is the only reminder you need. You focus on the wound, trying to block out the fear, and concentrate on the anatomy, on the tissues, and on the blood flowing with a force that tells you time is running out. 3 years ago, you were a respected doctor with a private practice and a quiet life. Everything changed the night a black SUV stopped in front of your door, and they asked you for a favor you couldn't refuse. At first, it was treating minor gunshot wounds in cheap motels, then managing the boss's chronic illnesses, and finally, you became his property. They pay you sums of money you never dreamed of, but you live in a gilded cage where the price of entry was your freedom, and the price of leaving will be your funeral. You've seen things you'd rather forget, and you've healed men who deserve to be 6 feet under. But your Hippocratic oath has transformed into an oath of survival. The boss lets out a muffled groan, despite the local anesthesia. His eyes open slightly for a second, and look at you with a mix of pain and authority. In that look, there's no plea. There's an order. Don't let me go. You know this man doesn't fear death on the battlefield, but he fears dying helpless on a metal table. You work quickly, locating the projectile as your fingers move with mechanical precision. Finally, the metal hits the forceps with a dry click. You extract it and drop it into a kidney dish. The first step is done, but the bleeding won't stop. The monitor starts emitting a sharp, continuous tone. The heart rate speeds up and then drops sharply. "He's going into hypovolemic shock," you shout, almost by professional instinct, forgetting for a moment who you're talking to. The bodyguard with the scar steps forward and points his gun directly at your head. "Fix it, Doc. Right
Give him
now,"
something to loosen that tongue,
he says in a
doctor.
cold voice that
We don't
leaves
have
no
all
room
night.
for argument. You feel the barrel of the gun near your temple, but you can't look away from the wound. At that moment, medicine and death are separated by just a few millimeters of suture. You start suturing with a speed that defies logic. Your hands move on pure instinct, closing the damaged blood vessels one by one. Time seems to stretch and compress simultaneously. You forget the gun, you forget the basement, you forget the money. Only you exist, the patient exists, and that artery that refuses to close. After what feels like hours, the bleeding stops. The blood pressure slowly starts to stabilize on the monitor. The beeping returns to a rhythmic, steady, calm pace. You let out a sigh you'd been holding in throughout the entire procedure and feel your legs give way beneath you. You pull off your bloody gloves and drop onto a stool, ignoring the bloodstains on your uniform. The bodyguard lowers his weapon, but he doesn't apologize. He simply returns to his position by the door. You know that to them, you're not a hero. You're just a technician who has done his job. The boss is now sleeping under the effects of the sedatives, his breathing deep and steady. You've kept him alive one more day, which means you'll also live to see the sunrise. You walk over to a small sink in the corner of the room and wash your hands with an almost obsessive vigor. The cold water helps you regain awareness of reality. You look at your reflection in a cracked mirror and barely recognize yourself. The idealistic doctor who wanted to save the world is gone, replaced by this man who just wants to spend one more night without the cold feel of steel against his head. You leave the basement escorted by two men who don't say a word. The fresh early morning air hits your face as you step out into the mansion's garden. You get into the SUV that will take you back to your house, or the place you now call home, which is basically another fortress with cameras and guards. As the vehicle pulls away, you look back and see the mansion's lights disappearing among the trees. You know your phone will ring again, maybe tomorrow or maybe in a week, and you'll have to do this dance with death once more. You're the most important man in that organization. You're the only one who can repair the boss, but you're also the most disposable if you fail just once. You get to your room, take off your blood-stained clothes, and get in the shower. The hot water washes away the remnants of the surgery, but not the weight on your chest. You lie down in bed and close your eyes, trying not to think about the bullet in the tray or the sound of the gun safety clicking off. Your life has become an extension of his. His heart attacks will be yours. His wounds will be your crises, and his last breath will be your death sentence. Tomorrow you'll get up, check your medical supplies, and wait for the next call. Because in your profession, there is no retirement, only abrupt endings. If you liked this story and want more like it, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything, and tell me in the comments what other POV you'd like me to bring. I read them all,